can really enjoy it. So this is very important, because sight gives a reality to the world, a reality to the food, and therefore you can really enjoy it. So we see that the great significance of sight. Somebody who is sightless, Rahman Islam, is lacking a very important part of experience of life. Now, let's say somebody who has lost his sight. He was sighted for a long time, and then he lost his sight, God forbid. So he's also suffering. But he knows what the real world is. It's not like somebody who has never seen. There's a very big difference with somebody who has never seen, or somebody who saw and lost his sight. Because the fact that he once saw, he already has a sense of that there is reality to the world. Even though right now he's liking it, but he knows there is reality and he knows what he's missing. So the same thing in Torah Bichlal and Hasidus in particular. Hasidus is a very, very deep Inyan. You know that the fact that we're learning Hasidus so widespread, so openly, with everyone, without background and so forth, is a very recent thing. You know that Hasidus used to be something which was learned very selectively, because it's really a very deep thing. But we're learning it, we understand it a little bit, more deeper, more clearer, more superficially. But it is important to know that there are real things in this. I see a lot of people. One of the things that I see a lot of people, even Yeshiva Bachrim and Yalait, and people come to discuss certain things. And when I point out to them that this Inyan is actually discussed in the Hasidus, and I show them where the Hasidus is discussed and how we can learn it from the Hasidus, they're totally shocked. Never believe that this is what it says over here. So it's important to know that there is so much in this that gives us, that really talks about us, that really opens up our mind and heart. So if we have this experience on a limited way, as I said, properly, to learn this properly, we would have to learn, you would have to spend a lot of time chazering and then reviewing and then talking it over. This is not, we don't have that type of privilege, that type of time. But at least we would know where to look for things, and there is what to look for. All right. Okay. This is what we say in davening on Rosh Hashanah. That this is the day that Tchilas Ma'asecha, the beginning of your work, speaking to Hashem. This reminds you, a remembrance of the first day. Ki chok liYisrael hu, because chok liYisrael, this is a chok, a rule, a portion for Yisrael. But tzarich lahavin. So we need to understand in this statement, v'haloi Rosh Hashanah hu yom v'avol ma'aseh bereishis, but Rosh Hashanah, it really is the 6th day of creation. The b'chav hei be'elul nivra ha'elu. because in fact the world was created on the 25th day of El, on Rosh Hashanah, Hu Yoim Brei Adam Rishon. And Rosh Hashanah is actually the day that Adam Rishon was created, not the creation of the world. Shehu Yom Vov L'Maaseh Bereishis, which is actually the 6th day, on Friday Adam Rishon was created, the 6th day of creation. Shal Shum Zeh Omer Razal, because of this, because of the fact that Adam Rishon was created first on the 6th day, the Chazal say, a posuk, Ocher v'kedem sartoni. This is a posuk in Tehillim. Ocher v'kedem, Ocher means the last, Ocher the end. V'kedem means the beginning. Sartoni, you created me. This is Ocher v'kedem sartoni, speaking from Adam Rishon's perspective. You created me the last and first. And the Chazal say, what is the Ocher? Shenivra Ocher L'Maaseh Bereishis. That actually he was created at the end of Maaseh Bereishis. So Adam was created the very last thing in Maaseh Bereishis. And he's described as Ocher, as being the back. Ocher means the back of creation. Therefore our question is, how do we say regarding this creation of Adam Rishon that this is Tchilas Maasecho? That this is the beginning of Hashem's actions, deed. But in fact it is the end of Hashem's deed.
So did you say what first group refers to?
Huh?
Did you say what the first group, what the beginning refers to? What Kedem refers to?
No, that we didn't say yet. But we know that in terms of the schedule of creation, he was the last one. Kedem we'll see later on. And then also we need to understand Mashem Messiahim. What he concludes, the end of this statement is Ki choik li Yisrael hu mishpat l'elkei yankiv. That this is a choik li Yisrael, this is a choik, a rule, a law li Yisrael, and mishpat, and a judgment day. Shel choira, where it appears, because the word ki means because. Therefore, it would appear that it is an explanation. Why is this in beginning? Because it is Chok Yisrael. So now the question is, Mahu Nisina Stam. What kind of reason is given over here? Lamasha Omar Koidem. For that which it says earlier, Zeh Hayim Tilas Maasech. Earlier he says, Zeh Hayim Tilas Maasech. This is the day, the beginning of your actions, of your deeds. And then it says, Ki. Because Chok Yisrael. It seems to be kind of one is a reason for the other. The L'choira in a Shayach Klal in Yonam Zelozeh. For apparently it would seem, L'choira means it would seem that in a Shayach Klal, that there is no relationship at all in Yonam, the union of these two things, the Tchilas Maasech and Chok Yisrael, Zelozeh, they have no connection onto the other. What is the relationship between these two things? So this is, so to speak, the opening questions that will open us up to a long discussion of the whole inyan of Rosh Hashanah. Ahu inyan hu. However, the principal answer to this is the pirush tchilas maasech. That actually the meaning of the word tchilas maasech, the beginning of your deeds, hu, is actually implying not historically, so to speak, not chronologically who was created first, but it's speaking about a different concept completely. And it is sheho Adam hu ikor kavonas brias ho'elam. Tchilas Maasech means to imply, to tell us that Adam, this day in which Adam Rishon was created, that represents Iker Kavonas B'nei Olam, the principal intent of the creation of the world. And this is why this is called Tchilas Maaseh. Okay, so right here, I'd like to stop for a moment. And I'm sure you heard these words before. Just wanted to elaborate on this. We should reflect on the implication of this statement here. We could say, yeah, it makes sense that originally when Hashem first thought of creating the world, the first thing he thought about is Adam Rishon. And because of that, he created the world. Therefore, the beginning, in terms of the thought, the beginning is started from Adam Rishon in terms of the intent. But the actual creation was still started from 6 days earlier. It is true that this was intended for that purpose, but what did you build? What did you make? You made the whole world. And then in this world there is an intention, an intent. So what this is teaching us even right here at this starting point is to understand that in our physical world, the physical entity, the physical material from which the world is made, has no significance whatsoever. The significance is, in other words, value. What is there is only its spiritual value. Otherwise, it has no significance whatsoever. One very open, a blatant example, illustration of that is money. Everybody is drawn to money. Everybody wants money. If somebody refuses money, says he's a fool. Why do you refuse money? Money is a very good thing. What is money? But for the fact that you can do something with it. And if you have nothing to do with it, then there's no value to it. It has no intrinsic value of its own. That's my point. Hashem does not create something of a secondary level. If I said that Hashem created, it means He created, it has something which has an intrinsic value, its own value. It's created for its own sake. Nothing in the world was created for its own sake, except for Adam Rishon. Therefore, where is the beginning of creation?
How was Adam created for his own sake?
I'm sorry?
How was Adam created for his own sake?
Okay. That we have to discuss. But Adam, that is that is the one creation that justifies creating the world altogether. I think there's no other thing that has an intrinsic value for its own sake. Adam has intrinsic value. We'll have a chance to discuss it and so forth. So therefore, to call Odom Tchilas Maasecha, because this is Kavonas Abriya, is not just a kind of an answer to a question. It is a true definition. That is really what's being created. This we can illustrate from our own experience. If a person is building a house, how do you build a house? By putting brick by brick and digging into the ground and putting down foundation. So somebody is passing by and says, "Oh, he's building a foundation. Oh, he's building a wall." Nobody builds a foundation, nobody builds a wall. What are you building? A house. And as long as it's not a house, you have built nothing. This is an important Indian to understand Bichlal in human life, in Yiddishkeit, and understand in our world. There is no intrinsic. You know what intrinsic means? So why are you quiet if you don't know? I used the word intrinsic 5 times already. Intrinsic means in and itself.
How?
Intrinsic. Intrinsic means something in and of itself, not because of something else. You understand? Mm-hmm. For its own sake. Something that has its own value.
Like a safer credit for example have its own value, or that itself is used for something else?
The truth is, even a Sefer HaKodesh is meant for a Yid to learn it. And I once passed by in a Jewish museum up in Upper Manhattan. And they have, under a glass, they have a Sefer Torah open, which is such an insult. Your heart goes out. That's making a joke of the Sefer Torah. I see the Sefer Torah is a kind of historical scroll. Right?
So everything is just a matter of tools. Everything is just a tool, kind of.
Everything but Avodas Hashem, a human being, Avodas Hashem.
A human being or the Mauritian?
A human being, or the Mauritian represents the human being, the Yid.
But even the human being, you're saying, it's merely a tool to the Hashem.
No.
Like he's not in itself, his job is to serve Hashem, who's the only thing.
No. That we will discuss. I am a Yid was created for his own sake. So this is important to understand in a general sense. That's what like I said before, that Chassidus teaches us not just a kasha and a teretz, but it should really impress us and give us an open up our mind to see a true perspective on our lives and true perspective on our world. We should always be looking to, like in this one example, always look for what is this about, not what is it. What is it about? Okay, let's continue. So the Rebbe says, Pirush Tchilas Maasecha. That's what the Rebbe says, Pirush Tchilas Maasecha. The meaning of the word Tchilas Maasecha. This is not a question and an answer. This is simply giving you a proper interpretation. You understand the difference? The Pirush, the meaning of the word Tchilas Maasecha is exactly this. That the Iker Kavana, the principal Kavana in creation is Adam. And that's what it means, Tchilas Maasecha. This is the beginning of the whole creation. Ukiyodua, and as it is known, the klolus brias ha'olam, we know that the overall creation of the world, the fact that the world was created in general, all aspects in the world, hu bishvil ha'odam, it is for the sake and because of Adam. So I'll come back later on to explain the words "klolus brias ha'olam mishvil ha'adam," that the entire creation is for the sake of Adam. So we will discuss after we get a little bit of a description of this. How is everything for the sake of Adam? K'meshakosuf, as it says in the pasuk, "Oneich yosisi oretz ve'adam aleha barasi." I made the earth, and I created Adam upon it. And Adam does not mean only Adam Rishon, it means Adam, the human being. Pirush, Oretz. What is the meaning of the word Oretz? What is the reference to the word Oretz over here? Oretz, Koyi, Al Klolus Habriya. Oretz refers to the Bria overall. That encompasses the entire Bria, the entire creation. How is Oretz encompass the entire creation? And as the pasuk says, "Bereish is boralikim as hashamayim ve'as ha'oretz." That when Hashem created, the bracious of the creation is Shomayim as an order, as Hashomayim and as order. Omer Razal, the Chazal say, "Ez Hashomayim koilel tzva Hashomayim." When it says "ez Hashomayim," the word "es" means with. "Ez Hashomayim," with the Shomayim, everything with Shomayim and everything that goes with Shomayim. And that koilel tzva hashamayim, therefore that includes the tzva hashamayim, all the tzvot, all the hosts, the entire spectrum, everything that Hashamayim represents, stands for. V'ez ha'oretz koil kotzva ha'oretz. And as ha'oretz, therefore also includes kotzva ha'oretz, everything, not just the earth per se, but everything that is tzva ha'oretz, everything that stands and that develops the earth. Nimtza. Therefore, it comes out that oretz koileles kol tzvo'o. That oretz includes, the word oretz includes kol tzvo'o, all of its tzvo'o. Tzvo'o, you say hosts. The word tzvo'o, Tzova, the word tzova usually is considered as an army. What is the relationship, they say tzova to the army? In a country, there are many things that a country stands for. But one major principle in a country is that the country can defend itself against enemies. It is not vulnerable, cannot be overrun. Somebody wants to take over. Can't take it over. And this defense is represented by the army. you would think that the army is kind of a negative. In other words, it has to defend itself in case there are people who want to attack the country. But actually, the army is not just because of enemies. And I'll deviate a little bit and come back to talk about another phase of life. Let's say we are all Shomer Torah mitzvahs, right? All of us, Baruch Hashem, we eat kosher, we keep Shabbos, we daven 3 times a day, whatever. Now, we are here in yeshiva and everything is scheduled exactly according to fit exactly with the mitzvahs. You know, the Len Krishma in the morning is easy because you have to get up for the Seder beforehand. And to eat kosher, the yeshiva doesn't serve any other food but kosher. And if you, whatever it is, it's Shabbos, there's no challenge. When can we say that Yid is a Shomer Torah mitzvah? The Shomer Torah mitzvah is when he is actually in an environment where sometimes it becomes difficult to keep Torah mitzvahs. Or sometimes not even difficult. Let's say he's Yetzer Hara, he wants something that's not kosher, not exactly kosher. Even just for a taiva. Let's say he's not really hungry. To make it easy. Just a simple thing. A person sometimes Yetzer Hara, he has a nefesh abamis, he has Yetzer Hara. He wants something that is not permissible. Then he has to fight off that desire. This ability to fight off that desire, that is, so to speak, his army. That indicates that he is not just a Yid passively. You know what passively means? Passively? As long as nothing bothers me. But he stands for this. This is his way of life. And even if he has to fight for it, he will fight for it. That's why it's called the army. The army is not only because there are evil people who want to overrun the country, but it indicates that it really means what it says. If you say the Afrom Yid, you mean what you say. That you will follow through on it under all circumstances. That's what it means, essentially. So when we say Tzva ha'aretz, the hosts of the earth, it means that it represents all the riches, everything that the earth is able to produce, is represented by this tzova. The earth is able to produce vegetation. The earth is able to give life to animals. The earth is able to give life to the human being. And as we will see, the earth is actually the source of everything else that was created. This is its tzova. This represents, so to speak, showing its full force. It's not just sitting there passively and doing its own thing. It actually spreads out and represents itself everywhere, wherever it can. So, therefore, it's a ha'oretz, koilelos kol tzva. The earth, the word earth, koilelos kol tzva, that includes and represents kol tzva, all of its horse, means its entire force, its entire reality, its entire capability. V'yodua, it is known, meaning it's known in Chassidus, the bechinas oretz, that this bechina, this element of oretz, b'shorsho, hu bechinas malchus. In its source, it is the Bechina of Malchus, it's the element of Malchus. Again, I want to stop for a moment and talk about Shorsho, and then I'll talk about the unit of Malchus. The earth, as we see it, is, it's a phenomenal creature, it's a phenomenal thing. It has so many variations, so many capabilities, and so. But nevertheless, it's a blob of earth, a blob of rock, mountains and so forth. Okay, inside, something is happening inside of the earth, and there's a big fire that is constantly burning, and there's molten, and all kinds of different things are happening. But as we see it, it's a blob of earth. This blob of earth, as we are observing it, could be, it does not really in itself call a lot of attention to it. The earth, okay. When you look up in the sky, you see you see the sky, you see the stars, you see the sun and the moon. That's sometimes more impressive than the earth. You look at an expanse of desert, what is it to look at? There is a concept, I'm going to discuss it briefly, what's called shoirish. Shoirish. Shoirish means the root. The root, why does something have a root? What is the significance of a root? Let's say a tree has is rooted in the ground. Sender. Sorry. A tree is rooted in the ground. Right? A tree is standing on top of the ground. And all you see is just a piece of wood standing on top of the ground. And this piece of wood is pretty much vulnerable. It's standing, cannot stand. But you say, wait a second. It's rooted. It has roots. And what are the roots? The roots are deep down in the ground. These roots do not merely give the tree a stability because it's holding on to something, like holding on to rock, holding on to earth. These roots have a much bigger significance, much bigger function and purpose. What do these roots do? They feed the tree. They keep the tree fresh, living. They keep the tree from drying up and dying. So as you're looking at it, it's nothing. But really, it's a living tree. And not its life is not just limited to it itself. It has roots deep down in the earth. And it can go very, very deep down, all the way down to the source, to flowing water underneath the earth. And can have unlimited resource of sustenance. So sometimes you look at a tree, a huge tree, but you spot, oh wow, what a tree. Sometimes you look at a little tree, it's nothing. You're not looking correctly. What's underneath this tree? Is there fertile land underneath? Or is it dry land? How deep are its roots?
3 meters.
Huh?
3 meters.
3 meters. Depends what's in there. I would say if it is dry underneath, it's not going to last very long, no matter how big it is. And then this little tree can outlast the big tree, can survive a storm, and the big tree will topple over. Now with the root is not, okay, in the case of a tree, it's two separate things. It has sustenance. The principle of a root in a bigger picture, in a bigger sense, the principle of a root is that it has a real basis for existence. It is not just on the surface, on top of the earth. It's here, as you see it. It has a real basis, a real reason, what makes it be.
I understand. Like, I mean, if you just see the tree itself, so you know it's there. So why do you need the roots in order to tell us that it's really living? I mean, so why do the roots tell us that it's really living? I don't really get that point.
The Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya that really, when you put a seed into the ground and it grows, it does not really grow from the seed. Right, the seed disintegrates into the ground, and thereby it calls out, it arouses from the earth the koyach hatzemeach, and this is what makes it grow. The koyach hatzemeach. Now, this inyan that it grows from koyach hatzemeach has tremendous significance. What is the significance? When we see a tree standing on the ground, the tree and the ground are two separate entities. Two separate entities. The question is like this. This tree standing on the ground, is it an intruder? What an intruder means? Does it belong there? Or is it a foreign object? Does the earth welcome it? Or does the earth say, get out of here, what are you bothering me? Why are you digging your roots into my core? So if the tree grows independently of the earth, then the tree is an intruder. And it doesn't have a real basis to be on the earth. If the tree grows from the koyach hatzemeach sheba'aretz, then it's the earth that's producing the tree. Then it really belongs there. It's at home. Do you understand the difference?
So if there weren't roots, I mean, so if it wasn't based from growing from the ground, then it's like so it's not really part of the earth, you're saying.
It doesn't really belong there. It doesn't have a real basis. It doesn't have roots. It doesn't have a reality. This
Why
is
doesn't it have a reality?
because it's entirely dependent on itself, right? But the earth on which it is based doesn't want it. Actually, when it draws sustenance from the earth, it's like taking that which doesn't belong to it. It doesn't have a real basis, a real welcoming place. This means it doesn't have a root. And that means it doesn't have a reality. Somebody comes into your house. Even if you give him the food, or you say, here's food and get out of here. It's quite a difference than you say, oh, please come in, sit down at my table. Right? It's a world of a difference. You belong here or you don't belong here. It gives you a sense of reality. Right? So overall, when we say the earth, shorsha, the shorsha, this is Malchus, even though the earth is a physical entity, it is rooted, it has a godly root, a godly significance. It's rooted in godliness. And in godliness itself, where is it rooted in godliness? In Malchus. Therefore, it has a completely different significance, reality. This is in Hasherish in a very brief. We'll have more chance to talk about it. Just wanted to explain the terms as we are going through it.
Are you going to tell us the difference between are you going to explain the difference between Sheresh and Makar?
Not now,
Okay.
but we need to. I'll explain it.
Is there a complicated explanation?
But we need to. We'll explain it.
I don't know. The question is, do we need to?
Right now, we don't need to. See, okay, wake up. I'm going to explain the principle.
Ready?
Yeah, you hear? Yeah, I'm sure the Neshama is here, of course, but I want to see. I said, we're learning Chassidus and we're saying words. I want that we should see that what this is all about. We're talking about earth. All of a sudden we're going, B'shorshel b'chinas Malchus. What do we mean by this? Why are you jumping to Malchus? And who talks about the Sheresh? Here is the important principle. I'd like you to listen, and if you don't understand, please stop. Please try to understand this. This is an overall principle. There is only one reality. Only one truth. And that is the godly truth. That is the real presence. That's the real truth. This is what we know when we close our eyes and we see nothing, and that reality remains with us. I can say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. That's the only real truth. Everything else is a lie. Which means it's a lie. It's not there in and of itself. It happens to be there, but it's not really something that is in and of itself. When I close my eyes, I see Hashem Echad, that I see. The table and the chairs and the earth, I don't see. If I don't see the table and chairs in the earth, when my eyes are closed, so then when I open my eyes and I see them, I say, where are you coming from? What's your business over here? I have no choice but to accept. They're here, it happens to be there. But there is no essential truth to it, you understand? I have a question, what is this all about? That's why we need to understand that everything that exists has a root in Elokus. If it has a true existence, it has a root in Elokus. It has a shoyrish in Elokus. And that's what the pshat, shorshe b'chinas malchus. It actually represents a godly element. Where does earth and godliness come to? What is the similarity between that? What it says, shorshe b'chinas malchus. It actually represents the Inha Malchus. Malchus, Midas HaMalchus, in our Palatinus. Therefore, it is now, it's a real thing. It's not just an accident. It really belongs there. It belongs in the reality that I know. That's why, when we say Shema Yisrael, it says Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. There's only Hashem. And then we say Baruch Shem K'nachus Eloheinu Boed. What's the purpose of saying Baruch Shem K'nachus Eloheinu Boed? The purpose is, if you say Hashem Echad, we open our eyes, the world would just be a crazy place. What are you about? How do you come into this? That's when we say Baruch Shem K'nachus Eloheinu Boed. Hashem reveals His Malchus. Oh, that's what it is. This is the Malchus Hashem. Now I can relate to the world. It makes sense. That's essentially, somebody, in a very true perspective, this is essentially what we're saying. So when it says, Oretz, b'shosho b'chinas malchus, what do you mean b'shosho? What is its root in Elokus? In the truth. It's rooted in the B'chinas HaMalchus. And that's what it represents. Okay, let's continue. The Mokeh Kol Yizhavos HaNivroyim, because the Mokeh, the source, Kol Yizhavos HaNivroyim, the entire creation of all Nivroyim, who mibchinas Malchus ki yodua, is from the element of Malchus, from the Bechina of Malchus. So this union that it comes from Malchus really is it's a rich Indian all by itself, but in this case we will not go into this. We'll come to Malchus later on. But the entire creation is Mibchinas Malchus, not from the highest spheres, but from Malchus. V'zehu she'omru, and this is what the Chacham said. HaKoil hoyo min ha'ofor, that everything came to be from the ofor, from the earth, from the dust. Afilu galgal chamo, even the galgal chamo, even the sun itself. What is the relationship? That since that ofor, the earth, represents the Inya HaMalchus, and everything comes from Malchus, that means that ultimately, even Galgal Cham, everything came from the offer. Hakil Hoim in the offer, everything comes from Malchus. Nimtzo, therefore it comes out, the Eretz Koilel, that the word Eretz Koilel, Kol Mashin Yizhava, B'Sheishes and Meibreishes. Eretz includes everything that came to be, everything that was created, b'sheishis and mebreshis. Because Eretz represents the Malchus, the Malchus Shomayim, the Malchus Eliki, and that includes, that is the source of everything that was created.
Yeah, but it wasn't created on the first day, though, was it?
It was included there. It was not revealed on the first day, but it was included there.
It was included in making the on the day and night. Sorry, the light and dark.
And light and dark was actually revealed on the first day. But sorry.
Rabbi, just gonna ask if you're ready for the singing of the track.
Oh. Yeah, one more minute. I'll send somebody. Okay.
So you're saying that like everything was created on the first day, but the question is when it was revealed.
That's right. Revealed in the subsequent days. Huh? No, one second.
I like knowing what's hidden and everything. I like knowing what's hidden and everything.
Yeah. Okay, but you can't do it. You can't know it in one time. So he says like this. Eretz koil chomash and yisava b'sheises me'breshis. We really should do it the next time in Mishim. Discuss briefly the Inyan HaMalchus to understand how Malchus, and we say Eretz represents Malchus, how that is really the midah, the quality that includes everything. That is the source of everything. All right, so we'll have to interrupt now, and we'll do some singing. Okay. I have to do it quickly because I have to leave. You want to tell them to come?